The Latin poet Virgil, in his epic The Aeneid, retroactively imagined the origins of the rivalry between Rome and Carthage through the tragic romance of Aeneas and Dido. The Carthaginian queen's curse upon her abandonment, "Let there be no love or treaties between our peoples," served as a poetic prologue to the three devastating Punic Wars. The first of these conflicts, a grueling 23-year struggle, was the young Roman Republic's first true military trial outside the Italian peninsula, a war that would forge it into a Mediterranean naval power. The immediate catalyst for war emerged in Sicily. In 288 BC, a band of Campanian mercenaries, the Mamertines, seized the city of Messana. By 264 BC, Hieraeon II, the new tyrant of Syracuse, moved to crush them, defeating the Mamertines at the Battle of the Longinus River and besieging them in Messana. Facing annihilation, the Mamertines appealed for help to both Rome and Carthage. The Roman Senate was divided. Intervention meant likely war with Carthage, which held a powerful presence in western Sicily. Yet allowing Carthage to control Messana, just a narrow strait from Italy, was an unacceptable risk. The popular assembly, swayed by the potential glory and strategic necessity, voted for war. An army under Consul Appius Claudius Caudec was dispatched. The situation was already complicated. A Carthaginian force had already arrived in response to the Mamertines' plea. A Roman legate, also named Claudius, resolved this through treachery, inviting the Carthaginian admiral Hanno to a parley and taking him hostage to force a Punic withdrawal. The Mamertines, now firmly in the Roman camp, found themselves besieged by both Hieron of Syracuse and a Carthaginian army. The arrival of Consul Claudius broke the deadlock. The Romans defeated Hieron's forces and then turned to rout the Carthaginians, lifting the siege. The war's initial phase concluded with a strategic masterstroke for Rome. In 263 BC, a large Roman force under new consuls compelled Hieron to switch sides, becoming a staunch and valuable ally. This secured Rome's rear and its supply lines. A subsequent victory at the Battle of Himera prompted dozens of Sicilian towns to defect from Carthage to Rome. By 262 BC, the war had settled into a stalemate. Rome dominated the land with its formidable legions, but Carthage controlled the sea with its powerful navy, preventing a decisive Roman victory. The Carthaginian general Hannibal Gisco assembled a new army at Agrigentum. The Romans, underestimating the threat, besieged the city, but were soon themselves besieged when a large Carthaginian relief force under Hanno arrived and cut off their supplies. The ensuing Battle of Agrigentum was a brutal Roman victory, achieved through sheer infantry grit, though Gisco and his garrison famously escaped. The Romans sacked the city, but the lesson was clear. To win the war, Rome needed a navy. In an incredible feat of determination, Rome built a fleet from scratch. Using a captured Carthaginian quinquereme as a model, they constructed 100 of these large warships and 20 triremes in just 60 days. To compensate for their lack of naval experience, Roman engineers invented the corvus, raven, a rotating boarding bridge with a spike on its end. This device could slam down onto an enemy ship, turning a naval battle into the infantry Mylae where Rome excelled. This new fleet was blooded at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC. The Carthaginians, under Hannibal Gisco, expected an easy victory against the novice sailors. Instead, the corvus proved devastating. Roman Marines boarded and captured ship after ship, securing a stunning victory and establishing Rome as a naval power. Emboldened, Rome decided to strike at the heart of Carthage. In 256 BC, a massive invasion fleet of 330 warships clashed with an even larger Carthaginian fleet of 350 vessels at the Battle of Cape Ecnomus, one of the largest naval battles in history. Through a combination of the corvus and determined fighting, the Romans again prevailed. The consuls Marcus Atilius Regulus and Lucius Manlius Vulso landed in Africa and scored initial successes, plundering the countryside and defeating a Carthaginian army at the Battle of Attis. With Carthage seemingly on the brink, Consul Manlius returned to Rome with spoils and prisoners, leaving Regulus behind with a reduced force to finish the campaign. Overconfident, Regulus offered Carthage extremely harsh peace terms, which were proudly rejected. In their darkest hour, the Carthaginians turned to a Spartan mercenary, Xanthippus. He reorganized their army, emphasizing its strengths: a superior cavalry and a corps of war elephants. On the open plain near the Bagridas River in 255 BC, Xanthippus's tactics proved masterful. The Carthaginian cavalry routed its Roman counterparts while the elephants shattered the legion's center. The Roman army was annihilated. Only a small remnant escaped. Regulus himself was captured. A massive Roman relief fleet succeeded in rescuing the survivors, but was then almost entirely destroyed in a cataclysmic storm off Camarina, losing hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of men. This disaster defined the next phase of the war, a brutal grind back on Sicilian soil. The focus returned to Sicily, where the key Carthaginian strongholds of Lilybaeum and Drepana held out. The siege of Lilybaeum became an epic struggle of endurance. The Romans blockaded it by land and sea, but the brilliant Carthaginian commander Hamilcar repelled every assault and rebuilt damaged walls each night. Both sides displayed remarkable ingenuity and determination, with the Carthaginians running the blockade with fast ships like that of the legendary Rhodian. Frustration led the new Roman consul, Publius Claudius Pulcher, to launch a surprise attack on the port of Drepana in 249 BC. The result was a catastrophe. The Roman fleet was trapped against the shore and utterly defeated, losing 93 ships. Soon after, a second Roman supply fleet was wrecked in another storm. These losses broke Rome's naval power for years. The land war descended into a grueling stalemate under the command of the brilliant Carthaginian general Hamilcar Barca. From his mountain strongholds at Hercte and later Eryx, he waged a relentless guerrilla war against the Romans, raiding their lines and tying down their armies without engaging in a decisive pitched battle. For nearly a decade, the war dragged on, exhausting both republics. By 242 BC, Rome was financially drained, but resolved on one final effort. In a remarkable display of public spirit, wealthy citizens privately financed the construction of a new fleet of 200 quinqueremes. This new navy, under the skilled consul Gaius Lutatius Catulus, was built and crewed with care. Catulus sailed to Sicily and effectively blockaded Lilybaeum and Drepana, cutting Hamilcar Barca off from his supply line. Carthage scrambled to respond, assembling a relief fleet loaded with provisions. In March 241 BC, this fleet under Hanno encountered Catulus's well-drilled navy near the Aegates Islands. The Romans, with superior ships and crews, achieved a decisive victory, sinking 50 ships and capturing 70. With his last hope of resupply gone, Hamilcar Barca was granted full powers to negotiate a peace. The Treaty of Lutatius was signed, ending the 23-year war. Carthage agreed to evacuate Sicily, return all Roman prisoners without ransom, and pay a massive indemnity of 3,200 talents of silver over 10 years. Rome had emerged victorious, claiming its first province overseas and establishing itself as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean. The end of the war with Rome did not bring peace for Carthage. The state, bankrupted by the long conflict, attempted to shortchange its army of 20,000 mercenaries upon their return to Africa. This sparked the brutal Mercenary War, 240 to 238 BC, a conflict more savage than the war against Rome. The mercenaries, joined by 70,000 Libyan rebels, laid siege to Carthage itself. The city was saved almost single-handedly by Hamilcar Barca, who displayed brilliant generalship in a vicious civil war. After years of fighting, he finally crushed the rebellion. However, while Carthage was thus weakened, Rome cynically seized the island of Sardinia and extorted an additional 1,200 talent indemnity. This act of bad faith created a deep and lasting bitterness in Carthage, particularly in the house of Barca. Before departing for Spain to rebuild Carthaginian wealth and power, Hamilcar made his young son Hannibal swear an oath upon the altar of Baal to never be a friend to Rome. The First Punic War had ended, but it had sown the seeds for an even greater conflict. The keeping of that oath would soon bring the Roman Republic to the very brink of destruction.